Thank you, Xavier. I'm going to step back from the podium and maybe come into the body of the Kirk a wee bit, just to engage for the next half an hour. So, yes, welcome to Scotland, welcome to Glasgow, to the many visitors we have. Can I have a show of hands, please, of how many visitors we have from? Excellent, excellent, and lots of academia. Over the next half an hour, I'm going to continue, and congratulations to the first two previous speakers in regards to, I loved your analogy in regards to the orchestra, and when we bring in certain parts, and also in regards to cyber incident response. And I'm going to take the journey in a very kind of granular and pragmatic way, and the challenges that I face in policing cybercrime. And I think one thing that I'm glad to see over the last kind of number of months, or maybe last, say, a year, we're going back to the human factor. Machines don't launch DDoS attacks. People do. So for me, and the challenges we have in regards to protecting you in the real world and the virtual world is ever growing. So over the next 20 minutes, 25 minutes, I want to speak about what we're trying to do and extend what the Minister has spoken to you in regards to our strategy, what we're doing with academia, what we're doing with the fantastic Indigenous talent that we're producing in our universities in Scotland, and maybe to share some of the challenges and experiences to take back to your own cyber family in regards to developing that resilience. Because it's global, and we need a global, agile law enforcement to investigate. I want to speak about the threat landscape because it's ever evolving. And for me, in regards to 54% of acquisitive crime is now committed online, but what if we had that multi-vector attack to something like blue light services within the UK? What if that happened within your country in regards to the physical disruption, loss of life? And that's a huge challenge for governments now and law enforcement in regards to the vulnerabilities around SCADA, PLCs, and let's explore that a little bit more. Investment in education, education, education. I'll show you some of the examples we're involved with in Horizon 2020, some of the new incubator companies from proof of concept right through to taking it to the market. And I love that idea. And in presenting you to this morning the threat landscape, I'm hoping maybe to challenge your thinking in regards to, well, how can we form some sort of a collaborative application in regards to some of the fantastic work you're doing out in universities in regards to the technical and academic challenges we have. In law enforcement, never more so in any other areas, prevention critical in regards to cyber investigations. I can send a team of detectives over to various other jurisdictions in regards to trying to take down some botneted activity. But maybe could I launch that from this country? Is there an ethical issue there? And that's certainly something we're looking at in regards to the intelligence stream. If we break the door down in another jurisdiction, in a cloud-based environment, how can I link that? How can I link the API or the metadata between the host and the client? So these are the challenges we're looking at. So, in regards to what the Minister spoke about earlier this morning, that's our UK strategy. That's our Scottish strategy in regards to a safe, secure, and prosperous Scotland. But what we have launched is the 5 coherent plans around a public sector action plan, an implementation toolkit. The big one for me is learning and skills action plan for cyber resilience. Going forward in that respect. And why are we doing that? Fundamentally to create a better prosperity in Scotland where we live a safer life. Very simple. And that's our ambition in regards to, and it's not very clear on the slide, but here, to develop our cybersecurity workforce and profession to ensure that the skills supply, and we meet that gap, and we close that gap. And that's critically important. And already have we identified that shortage in industry, and that's global, not just the UK, it's European, but also for law enforcement. And what really works for me in law enforcement is that young technologist, or that technologist, but we also need the Columbo. We also need the person to follow the money. We also need people to ask that hard question. I stand before you as a policeman. That's, you mandated me to do that. And when we don't go out and ask that hard question in regards to following the money, when we're talking about trillions in regards to what's crime, online crime is called. And that's a challenge for us. And these are some of the initiatives that are involved in that, and what really works well for me also is bringing in internships, apprenticeships, bringing in academia, working with a multi-collaborative investigative team, because the range of skills we need now to investigate the types of crimes that we're seeing, everything from cradle to grave, cyber stalking and bullying on one end, to some botnet activity or some sort of cross-scripting attack being launched from another country that we don't have an agreement with. The Minister mentioned the CICSA Nexus. The CICSA is the Scottish Informatics and Computer Science Alliance, but the 18 universities in Scotland, we've worked very closely with all of the universities. And for me, I suppose you can take Scotland's future and everyone's future, because I think for law enforcement and for society, we face the same challenges in regards to the growing emergence of cybercrime in its many forms. And international collaboration is a key feature for me in that respect. So we work with, this one example is the Cyber Academy at Napier University in Edinburgh, just recently launched its own lab, SOC lab, with SIM tools, and we're putting law enforcement and police officers in there working with the students to train them in incident response. Lindsay and Xavier are from Abertay. We work very closely with the ethical students in there. I also wear two hats here. I also work with the Scottish Business Resilience Centre. And in the Resilience Centre, we take students and we've launched a commercial product in regards to certain aspects of cyber hygiene. In regards to, we take the students in, they've got the technical capability, we work on the soft skills, we work on transferring that great technical knowledge they have into a commercial environment. And that's just one example that I wanted to show you today in regards to what we're doing. Yes, the Minister spoke about Scotland being a world leader, and that's something we're working towards within the UK. We're also working on certain initiatives around, we've kind of got federated hubs within Police Scotland. So our 69 analysts, in regards to just forensic analysts reporting ordinary crime, sit underneath a federated hub concept, working closely with the universities. And we're building towards a national Cyber Scotland depot, working very closely with our colleagues in the National Cybercrime Centre, which is out of GCHQ. So we're linked in on a national basis in regards to what that threat landscape is going forward. But also for me, in regards to, this is what I seem to see work well. So we have a multi-agency investigative team downstairs to respond to that. And it's the speed of response, it's the golden hour in regards to when that intrusion comes. If you talk about the WannaCry incident, we had 14 of our health boards, local health boards attacked in Scotland. We had to send out teams in regards to investigating where the vulnerability, where the attack, what was the attack vector, and what was the implication. Working very closely with our colleagues down south. But also, I want to be able to go upstairs and challenge academia in regards to, well, hold on, here's a new signature, here's a new vulnerability. How do you think I should investigate this? Remember, we always have evidence back with our research and study, but this can be applied quite easily. And I want trusted partners in industry. And I do challenge industry in regards to where is your social appetite for engaging in support, not necessarily finance, but resources. In regards to, you have tremendous talent out there in your individual organisations. Are you working in silos? And you have a social responsibility to contribute. So that's our ambitions around a cyber demo. Working closely with our regional organised crime units across the UK, linking into the National Cybercrime Centre, into Europol, very important to us, and of course our American colleagues. We need to be agile in regards to these investigations. That's who I need. But I also want him in regards to, and that's to stay ahead of whatever the challenge is going to be in regards to, you don't necessarily have to find them, you just have to be faster than them. And I suppose for me, that's the whole thing about prevention. So I'm going to go through the landscape very quickly, and this will be kind of, a lot of you will be very aware of what the threat landscape, has it changed much in the last 5 years? For me, no it hasn't, in regards to, we are seeing malware proliferation on a grand scale. We are seeing phishing. It's still it's still kind of, I won't say disappoints me, but in regards to when I see senior executives within an organisation allowing significant amounts of cash to go out of their organisation without checks and balances. And organised crime is getting more sophisticated. The hacker and social engineering. Again, these are the main threat factors. And ransomware still seems to be top of the pops for us. I spoke about WannaCry. What was the vulnerability in WannaCry? That's a question, David. Go on.
SMBP1.
Thank you. And you're from?
Independent cybersecurity consultant, part-time PhD student.
Have you seen that vulnerability before?
Oh yeah.
Where?
Years ago, as a pen tester, you'd do null sessions to get access to a box 5, 6, 7 years ago.
SMBP1 was seen in Configure in 2008 on a huge scale.
Yeah.
The patch was sent out in March, yet in May we had this vulnerability. We're in the security industry, are we not? Are we in the cybersecurity industry? Where was the orchestra there in regards to? So this is why I kind of highlight this in regards to vulnerabilities that we've seen again. You know, so we have to go out with a non-pataya again. What's going to happen next in regards to? Here's one individual who lost $500,000 in regards to business email compromise. We lost about 2 million in about 2.5 weeks. Significant amount of money, and this is Scotland. This is small Scotland. And I mentioned ransomware before. And I suppose what's keeping me awake at night is the likes of this type of incident. Is it going to happen? Could it happen? No, couldn't. We're never going to develop a malware that we're going to launch into an Iranian nuclear site to slow its program down. We're never going to attack a Saudi firm in regards to killing 150 PCs.
35,000.
Was it?
Yeah, 35,000 on the first day of Ramadan in 2012.
Thank you very much. This was last year, and it kind of crept under the radar a wee bit. But again, not dissimilar to Stuxnet, is that an intrusion or an exploit to be able to sabotage the firm's operations and trigger an explosion. Again, from a law enforcement perspective, from a government perspective, we have to make sure we get that right all the time. And these are some of the challenges it faces. And again, Stuxnet could have happened. But we talk about the engineering, and we talk about, okay, here's 9 DNS being taken out last year. And this is where kind of the engineering of the internet is, you know, the vulnerabilities that were highlighted in regards to the router. We're working with Secure by Design in regards to firming up on some of the silver things. When's the last time you updated your router? Anybody do it in the last week? Oh, we're cybersecurity professionals. Are we vulnerable?
Yes.
So I suppose these are some of the challenges that, and just working together in collaboration that we've been running. This one really kind of struck home to me because we go with the virtual world and the real world. Here was a Bitcoin trader outside London, driving home with his family, went in the door, followed by an armed gang, held a gun to his head for his Bitcoin wallet. And I suppose, again, when we're task detectives and intelligence feeds going out, you know, the great work that's been done around blockchain in regards to follow the money. And I know there's lots of good work going on in your various jurisdictions in regards to that, assisting law enforcement, because that's fundamentally what we have to do, is follow the cash and secure that cash, and we've done that successfully. Did that happen? I should have been a criminal. 80 million. I should be in the Caribbean. So again, I know there's organised crime out there looking at how we transfer cash between countries in regards to, and that could be a hugely significant. Not to mention crimes in the darknet, and lots of good projects we're doing in regards to web crawlers, in regards to looking at some of the AI stuff behind, look at some of the product in regards to what's going on in the darknet. And I hate that analogy just because you're in there, or you're up to some malicious activity. No. But again, we know that there's a lot going on. And it's organised. And this was just one local gang here in regards to a mixture of social engineering and hacking. But when we washed the cash through a forensic accountant, it came to 114 million. Big challenges for law enforcement in regards to going out and allocating This gang had family members placed into the bank and were selling in an online environment premium account details. And again, equally, this is another crime gang recently. I won't delay on this one because it's really local in Scotland, but it's the fact that they were using signal jammers, using encrypted phones to communicate. And that's the challenge for us out there. They're involved in the importation of kilo amounts of Class A drugs, extortion, gang violence, intimidation. That's something the emerging face of cybercrime for us. And I haven't gone into the whole issue of abuse of children, and again, when we see what's coming across our desk in regards to an attack on an infrastructure or things like this, and this was a young man who was being stalked online and took his life because of he was extorted by a crime gang in another country. I don't want to be kind of a serious side of it, but of course it is. And this was in Scotland in regards to hosting web stressor tools. Now the difference between some young students and the white hat, black hat in regards to the malicious intent in a crime gang is wholly different, and I do acknowledge. And this was one young. Anybody know that young man? Anybody? Well, no, you'll never guess where the beach is. It's actually, the beach is nearly closer to Iceland than it is to Glasgow. It's a place called Yell in the Orkney Islands.
Jake Davis.
Sorry?
Jake Davis.
Well done. Jake Davis, part of the anonymous group, broke into Sony. But it took us 6 hours to get to. But again, in Scotland, in a very, very remote part of the world. So the key challenges for me, it's global, it's international, it's industrial, and it's automated. Yes, absolutely. Investigating crime in the real world out there is so much easier. We'll have CCTV, we'll have witnesses, and it's really easy. But in the cyber environment, much more difficult. And I think that one in regards to anybody can be a cyber criminal with a 24/7 service, as you know. And they're the difficulties for us in growing. So hence, I'm always am keen to get involved in events like this in regards to the collaborative approach. And trying to advocate to the business community is about cyber resilience. That cradle-to-grave approach. What is your overarching cybersecurity plan? How are you going to get it right? And we've applied these good principles in the real world in regards to if you're talking about if there's a disaster out there. Yes, we know preparation and pre-planning and running that incident beforehand is a good strategy. Now, for me, in regards to the evolution of cybersecurity and trying to, we talk about IDPS, we talk about SIM tools, we talk about forensics, we talk about the management of an incident. It's all that blended learning in regards to getting a good strategy correct for that incident. So, have you done that pre-planned exercise? And this is really what when I engage industry in regards to, what if you couldn't communicate to your staff and your customers? We spoke about, you referred to Equifax in regards to the effect on the share price of Equifax. I won't mention the talk, but again, actually I blame some of the PR people. They're rolling out somebody in front of a camera who didn't know what was going on behind their organisation. And that's where I think we really need to get your if-ask question ready. And these are some of the good practice that we promote in industry. Gold, silver and bronze. Allocate within your executive team somebody who is Spartacus. And then down. So you have that predetermined position in regards to, and you know your expected responsibilities. Again, these are a little bit more of questions that I ask CEOs, but principally the security team, principally the CTOs around what assurance activity have you done to make sure you're not vulnerable to that type of an attack we've been speaking about. But more importantly, I ask, what's your posture on security in regards to incentivization? And I see that as good practice in regards to whether password security, whether it's letting somebody doorstep you in behind, whether bringing your own device. But this is something I encourage you in the industry. Incident management planning is something that we advocate as well. And it's not all doom and gloom, and that's why I highlighted some of the engagements we have with the different universities and academia and stuff. A great platform we have in the UK is Cyber Information Sharing Partnership for those of you who are based in the UK, I would encourage you to join that in regards to sharing the latest signatures, the latest attack vectors, because that intelligence is important. And I do go out to industry and I say, please report what's happening to you. If you don't report it, how can we legislate for it? But I also, and the important part of that is sharing that intelligence. We will, if we get some malicious attack today, we will load that onto a European platform where we'll go out to law enforcement teams within your jurisdiction. So I think that's important, to share that intelligence. And some of the initiatives we're working with GCHQ around the likes of DMARC, the likes of DNS filtering, the likes of trying to secure what we're doing across the internet. And I'm happy to speak to you today on some of those initiatives. Like that slide. We do use cyber volunteers. We have an initiative in Police Scotland where we will take people from industry in various shapes and forms in regards to, yes, a lot of work around research and design, a lot of work around sharing intelligence, a lot of work about incident response. I'm actually studying at the moment myself an MSc in Advanced Security and Digital Forensics, and I was just talking to some of our guys down, and girls down in Napier in regards to a challenge for me will be around cloud-based forensics between the host and the client in regards to looking at the API, looking at the metadata, but how do I evidence that for a court or a judicial process? So if anybody, on a personal note, is got some work going on that in academia, please get in touch. I'm thinking of doing that for my dissertation. So that's some of the challenges we have. Everything for me is about partnership and collaboration. Hence we work so closely with universities and try to support that. Yes, our agenda is unashamedly ambitious. We want to be a world leader in cybersecurity. And when I say that, I say the UK, but I do promote that to Europe in regards to what we're saying. I think cyber is changing. I wholeheartedly agree with you in that in regards to, going away from dead box forensics in regards to, we took something like 7,500 phones from criminal activity last year in Scotland. But if you think about years ago, 5 years ago, your phone in regards to the capacity around that as opposed to now. If you think about the amount of devices in your home 10 years ago as to now, look how much and that's reflected in every criminal investigation. And that's a challenge for us. So, thank you for your time. I've kind of gone through that fairly quickly in regards to some of the points we have in Scotland. I'm around through the day, but I'll take any questions now. Thank you.